So I'm recording this because I saw that there weren't many videos talking about what complex post-traumatic stress disorder feels like for people who were assigned female at birth. I am currently 30. The year is 2026, and I am in my it's number 6, my 6th year of therapy to involve medication and talk therapy modalities. And I just wanted to say that for everyone else watching this, because you also have CPTSD or think you might, please just take a second and hug yourself, hold yourself, and tell yourself it's going to be okay. Okay? Somehow this is going to be okay, but maybe right now it doesn't feel like it is. I went looking for videos about what it's like to have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and also what it's like for people around me to experience me having complex post-traumatic stress disorder, because each time I look up like definitions of these disorders and like life impact for us, the people who have it, I often feel like it doesn't highlight nearly enough how much it alienates us and destroys us as far as our ability to kind of feel and act human. In fact, people have accused me of not being human, of saying that, oh, you have this symptom, it's scary, I don't understand it, you should be institutionalized. And that is terrifying to hear. I know for me, I don't know about anyone else. I've worked really hard to get to where I am, therapeutic wise, and there have been many setbacks. But when it comes to having CPTSD, people like me tend to just keep slipping back into the manure. Like we think we're just crawling through the mud, but really we're crawling through the manure, you know what I mean? And everyone's like, yeah, you're really in the weeds right now. And you're like, you have no idea where I am, dog. It's really hard to explain to other people how we feel in ways that they understand, because the way that we feel inside of us is something that we started, like these sets of feelings that we feel we understand. I feel like it's something we started developing when we were very little, like when the traumas first began. So I guess in that regard, it's like, let me take a second. I lost track of where I was, but that's fine. So, having complex post-traumatic stress disorder, it's been hard. Like having episodes, that's hard. And for the first time really ever, like explosive anger has reared up as a symptom. And I didn't really struggle with that the first few years of therapy, and I'll be honest, we never talked about it. And even in like year 6 of therapy, we've next to never talked about anger and how that feels. And I've also felt that none of my treatment has been like focused on my complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I feel like they've tried to treat other things that are under the umbrella, like the depression or the anxiety or my relationship with my chronic pain. Like I've done, chronic pain psychology with a psychologist, like her protocol for cognitive behavioral therapy, like all of these things. I'm trying very hard. So having CPTSD, it means that you have a condition that you developed as a response to something very bad happening to you or around you that you witnessed, but it happened repeatedly or prolonged, like for a long enough time, that it became chronic. Now, I don't want people to get confused about the C in the CPTSD. Some people I've talked to have mistaken that for combat post-traumatic stress disorder, and really that's completely different. That is entirely different, and I'm not going to speak on that because I am not an expert on that. I feel like with someone who has complex post-traumatic stress disorder, I'm only an expert on how it feels to me. I don't even say I'm an expert on CPTSD. And I'll also share that, like, I am working towards a career to become a licensed professional counselor, and I didn't know what I wanted to do for years, and I always thought I could not be a counselor because of how deeply I feel and how much my feelings affect my life. But it turns out that my life experiences are apparently very valuable as a counselor to help others, so I'm trying. But as someone with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, I mean, you can only try so much. I just had an episode recently, and it lasted for weeks, and I lost over 10 pounds. I was very upset, and I was very scared. The anger that came out of me was so loud. I want to emphasize, I am not somebody I don't have ideation about leaving this realm. I'm actually very terrified of that. That's my number one fear, is leaving the mortal plane. So, like, that at least has given I think my doctors some, like, peace. But habits that have come up are writing the things that people have said about me, like the hurtful things. I'll write them on myself with Sharpie. And I feel like it's kind of like my way of carrying it without them eating me alive, because they had to go somewhere. And then something else that's been happening is me ripping out my hair. Not pulling it, ripping it out. Ripping out good chunks at a time. And seeking that release, like, I didn't understand. I still don't quite understand what it did for me, but what I do know is that I feel like it gave me a sense of control again, because I couldn't control what I was feeling. It was so big and so scary, and the people around me were also very scared. The people around me have become traumatized because of my own trauma. Yeah, you see my hand shaking now. This sucks. It sucks to admit it, but I'm going to admit it here and for everybody, because I know people with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. We've done it, and we feel really bad for it. We have traumatized people in our lives because we either didn't know we had the condition, we didn't know how to cope with the condition, whatever it is, but their trauma is just as real as the trauma we are scared of. And I still haven't figured out how to come to terms with the fact that I'm causing trauma, because I'm trying desperately to get through every single day. I've been in survival mode for so long, and this past 12 months, I feel like I've completely lost them. Like, I can remember them if I sit and try to think about them, but, like, as a whole, I'm like, did last year even happen? Like, the last 12 months, is that real? My relationship with sleep during that episode, I guess I'll go back to the CPTSD episode. I was really having a hard time sleeping. I was having a hard time eating. My hair, I haven't brushed it. I put bar soap in it earlier to try to make myself feel better in one of my pain or feeling showers, but, like, back here where you can't see, it's kind of matted. It's kind of matted because, like, this looks okay, right? I don't know how okay it looks. I don't know. But back there's some matting because I stopped taking care of my hygiene. I wasn't brushing my teeth. I wasn't washing my face. I wasn't washing my body. I wasn't eating. I was barely drinking enough water. I was drinking a lot of coffee. Coffee is my comfort beverage. But then I'll talk about the substance use part that comes with complex post-traumatic stress disorder too. I have been addicted to cannabis for 5 years now, and I'm trying to break that addiction again, it's hard because I know that there are certain releases that I only know to get from that substance. So I have been using that very heavily for the past 5 years, on top of the psychiatric medication my doctors have me on. My doctors have known about it. I stay very open with them about it. One thing my doctors had advised me not to do when I was on this medication was to drink alcohol. They were very glad that I really wasn't a drinker because I preferred to be high. Because I did. I felt more in control when I was high than when I was drunk. But it got to the point where I really couldn't and still can't reach certain levels of critical thinking that I feel like I used to. It didn't really make anything better. It just scrambled my brain, so I had trouble focusing on it. And that's kind of why I was smoking, was to scramble my brain so I couldn't focus on like the CPTSD symptoms or my physical pain from my chronic pain issues. I wanted my brain scrambled so I didn't know about it. But the thing is I thought that I was like, I'm not feeling the pain, I'm good. But the problem is like the body and the mind still kept the score of that pain, even though I did something to alter my state of consciousness. And feeling the toll of all of that the past 5 years, and also looking at the fact that I just smoked so much marijuana that I'm like, okay, I don't know. Like I know I could talk about all the wasted money. But I know that people who struggle with addiction understand. So we're going to go back to substances again, because during this episode, I turned back to alcohol. I had not really drank on a consistent basis for a very long time. And then I was diving right into it and drinking. And the problem with that and my CPTSD symptoms is, even though I'm on a mood stabilizer and I am on the maximum allowable dosage daily of that mood stabilizer, the alcohol lowering my inhibition, like that really pushed the episode from like, it might happen to this episode is happening and we can't stop it. Because my medication, the cannabis and the alcohol plus the upset, maybe it was the type of alcohol, it definitely had a lot to do with my mindset. Things weren't great. So I have come to the point where at 30, I feel very disorganized. I feel like a shell of who I used to be, a shell of who I wanted to be. I've got my cat here trying to make me feel better for what's going on. He's pretty good about that. I've had trouble maintaining relationships with people. Like my first and only marriage, it really only lasted a year, and that's only because I don't know. I'm not going to say that things weren't bad with the other person in that first marriage, but it's really typical of people with post-traumatic stress disorders to have these other things. And then on top of that, last year, I got arrested while defending myself against an attempt on my life. So much has happened, and I feel like all of my coping skills, it's so what are they there for? I exploded. I exploded worse than I did last year. Last year, I could say I barely exploded when I was defending myself against an attempt on my life. I feel like I was way cool, calm, collected. I was composed, especially going back from the video footage that, had to be used in court. But the thing is when I had this episode, the past week and a half, 2 weeks of my life, that from right now, my cat's in my armpit, and I can't explain to you why he's got this obsession, but he will just suckle in that armpit for hours if you let him. But anyway, I don't know how to explain to people when I'm in those trauma episodes that they're saying I'm not me and that it's terrifying and they don't know who I am, but after the fact, like in the moment, that really hurts me because I'm like, oh, so like what the hell? But like after the fact, I think about it and I'm like, okay, so like what did I do in response to the episode happening? And I look at the things I engaged in. I was, going to my childhood stuffed animal for comfort. I was covering myself in blankets. I was trying to do comfort things. I was seeking out Disney movies. I was, yeah, I don't know. It's just, things were great, like in my brain about the things that I was trying to seek out. But at the token, I was not feeling great. I was not doing well. I was not acting well. Everyone around me was very stressed and very traumatized from how I acted. And now I can say, I think that the person that I was in those moments was the version of me that was traumatized. It's like it took a still or like it loaded a save. You know how like in video games, like we'll make save points at certain like points of the story. So if we wanted to go back and like change our mind about a decision we could go back like 20 hours of gameplay because we have different like load saves. You know what I mean? It's so in a way, like it feels like it summons up this like the saved version. It loads up this saved version of me that like experienced this trauma, and then that is the person who people are dealing with. So I can see those things, but like I'm traumatizing people because I don't know how to calm myself and they don't know how to calm me. And I just anyway, talking about these things is, I mean, I'm not going to lie that it kind of feels a little humiliating, and I haven't even posted it yet, but like I can look back even to my first girlfriend, like how awful I ended up being in that relationship. When I look back on it, I can trace back to some of the CPTSD symptoms that I didn't even know I had at the time. I didn't even know I had a condition. But even in high school, people were calling me things like crazy bitch and psycho bitch. And so honestly, I have had such a fear of being mentally ill my whole life. And when I got the diagnosis of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, with underneath I've got like the generalized anxiety, I have the social anxiety, I got the panic attacks, I have the dissociation, the depersonalization, the derealization, the insomnia, the appetite problems, the everything. I feel like I just check all the boxes, and I constantly feel like I am the fuck up of my family. But I also feel like I have, I don't know, I feel like somehow because of my damage, maybe I can help my family, but I don't know. When I deal with complex post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, I feel like I'm not myself in the sense of I can't access who I am. Like I have the trial version and I don't have the full version available. I've used that explanation quite a few times. Like it just feels like I'm living the trial version of my life. So what does it feel like to have CPTSD? I feel things very strongly. They feel so strong that I don't know what to do with them, and they feel like they'll burst out of my body. This also includes like good things. This includes bad things. Like sometimes I'll get like so excited about something that I'll overheat and I'll feel like I can't breathe, and I'll have to be like, and like some people have said like it's a vagus nerve thing, but like I have been in survival mode my whole life and things just keep happening. So all I get are just more traumatized versions of myself loading and loading and loading. And at some point, I really hope that I can be the person that can load a happy, patient, resilient, like bounces back from things type of person. I want to be better for the people around me, and I feel like I'm at the mercy of a condition that I can't explain, that they feel afraid of. And knowing that people are afraid of me when I didn't intend that really hurts. And I don't want to hurt people. I want to help people. But in those episodes, I can't stop being upset, and it just keeps going. So I wanted to talk more about like sciencey stuff, but I guess I had to do some venting. So I'm going to upload these and see what happens.